The minimum is going to destroy your marriage. It's really, this is an all or nothing. You have got to come fully clean. And every time there's a drip disclosure, every time you say that's it and then it wasn't, or every time you fail a polygraph, that can damage the relationship almost even more than the initial one. For the true healing and for your sake, for your true healing, there really has to be a full break there, letting your guard down and opening it up and going, okay, this is reality.
Tammy, you're back. This is exciting with some good news for everyone. So, Tammy, you just wrote a new book. It is now released. It's this will be a big year for you. Betrayal Healing Conference, book launch. So excited for you. But tell us why another book? I mean, there's so many books out there in the betrayal trauma space. Why do we need another one?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One, the book is called Broken to Brave, and it is specifically for betrayed partners. So it's helping her. But this book is really walking her through the process from the initial discovery and blow up all the way through her healing. And it's helping her. I've created 4 phases, and it helps her along the way to get a little bit of bearing to say, hey, where am I at? What do I need to focus on? And how do I get to the place of healing? And this book walks her through that because, man, it's the book I wish I would have had when life blew up.
So tell us a little bit more about that. What's so because again, all the helpers, so much great help. There's tons of great books out there, but I agree with you, Tammy. I think despite the abundance of helpers and the enthusiasm from all the helpers, I will still say when you get into this, it's and the helpers hate to hear this because we're all trying so hard to help, but Tammy, it's murky. It is not black and white. It is murky. It is gray. I would say sometimes some of the advice ends up kind of almost blowing up in our face. So talk to us a little bit about more of that. How does your book mend some of that? How does it kind of help them take all of this help and actually, use it in the intended way?
Yeah, well, when life flows up, you don't know which way is up. You don't know which way is up or down or forwards or backwards. And so it's very confusing as a betrayed partner to know, like, how do I get to the other side, if we want to call it that, right? And so I think there's a lot of stuff out there that kind of focuses on her emotional healing and well-being. But part of the reason I wrote this book is, man, I wish I could have seen there is a path. Mm-hmm. There is a way to get there. And not that it's a single straight line, not that I have all the answers and nobody else does, not at all. But it is to have something that goes, hey, that's the direction towards healing. And here's how you get there. Here's how you go. And there's a lot of potholes and ways you can get stuck along the way. Mm-hmm. So let's call those out. And those are specific for different phases that you're in. So kind of as a guide coming along beside betrayed partners saying, hey, here we're going. We're going in that direction. And watch out for that and stay away from that. You can focus on that later. And so I think that part, it would have been really helpful.
Yeah, no, I love that because it's so true, right? I think one of the challenges is, right, you jump in, you're listening to the podcast, you're reading to the books. And I think to your point, we start doing phase 3 things in phase 1. And then, and we start holding our partner, both the betrayed partner and the cheating partner, they get held to standards that, maybe we should be a little careful holding them to that standard yet. There's an element of, for both sides of them kind of getting comfortable with how this looks. I mean, this is a really hard thing. It's hard to be hurt this deeply and show up as an adult. It's hard to be called the names that we get called and go through this. It's a very, it's a big hit to the ego to go to somebody, to admit that you have a sexual compulsive problem. I mean, so I think I love what you're saying is, yes, there's all this great information and we do need to be a little careful holding people to a standard that, takes some time for them to really step into that place, right? So, teaching, how do we teach people what we're striving for, but also grace at the same time? And, it's this it's a lot more, there's more moving parts than we think. And to your point, we need that guide to basically say, hey, this is what we're working towards. And it's okay if we don't see that every time yet. This takes time, and just kind of, I guess, plant appropriate expectations while along the journey, while instilling hope and also giving us a reason to be patient. You're so spot on. I mean, there's so many things that the guides need to tell us that I think sometimes we miss in the details of it all. With, again, we're all impatient. We want this out of our life. I know the guys always say it seems like the women are not wanting this out of their life. Guys, trust me, they want it out of their life more than you want it out of their life. I can assure you of that. So Tammy, another question, can we speak to the 4 phases? How are these similar to kind of some of the 4 phases that exist? Have you kind of modified some of them? Talk to us about the 4 and how you came up with them.
Yeah. Certainly I'll do that. You might be a little disappointed with the book in the sense of I tell her to hold the standard high.
Yeah, which I like that.
Yeah.
I think it's when we give an inch, and I think both parties, they both are so desperate for this to go away. So I think you bring up a good point. Give them an inch. I think both of you impulsively, compulsively are going to try to take a mile if you can. So I like that but here's the thing I know about you though, Tammy, is I know I've seen your delivery method. There's a way of holding the standard high while still being human and honoring humanity. And you've always done a good job of that. So I don't think I'll be disappointed. I think you'll hold the space fine.
Well, as to the 4 phases, so I didn't model it after any. Really, what I looked at it was, first of all, kind of based on the clinical experience of what do I see? There's very kind of predictable phases and predictable things that women go through after betrayal. And then also just my own personal experience as well. So the first phase is reveal. And that's when life blows up, whether through a discovery or through a disclosure, but that's when life blows up. And the whole focus at that point is to get the truth, to get safe. You're dealing with all the shock, but it's really that foundational step of like, oh my gosh, my life just shattered. Like, what is going on? And trying to focus on getting the truth in that phase. The second phase, the transition of that is when she either gets the full truth or when it becomes clear that he's not going to give her the full truth. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, it transitions into phase 2, which I call rumble.
Yeah.
And for the rumble, this is the big, messy middle, right? Mm-hmm. This is where he is hopefully getting sober. He is hopefully getting his feet underneath him. She is grieving. She is like adjusting to new life. She is working on boundaries and finding her voice and dealing with her emotions and really kind of wrestling with, do I want to stay? Mm-hmm. Do I want to stay? And looking and saying, okay, what work is he doing? And is he really doing the work, the heart work? Or not, mm-hmm. right?
And yeah, then I call that's that like wrapping your head around the reality of your situation phase. Yeah, right. I hear that, and that's a scary one, right? Because I think both people are sincerely asking themselves, is this a journey I want to go on, right? which is tough, right? For 2 married people, what a scary question to be wondering. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then phase 3.
Phase 3 is where it transitions into you kind of know where your relationship is headed. And really what I see is there's kind of 3 paths at that point. There's kind of the redemption path where the relationship is healing, where he's done enough work and he's safe and he's working towards healing and she wants to stay and she's ready to lean in. Another one is divorce. Mm-hmm. And then there's this middle one that unfortunately doesn't get a lot of attention, and I call it the roommate phase. Mm-hmm. And that's where he's not actually doing great work, but she doesn't want to leave. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of really valid reasons. There's no shame or judgment in that. But so the relationship kind of goes along one of those 3 paths. And really there's very unique needs for each one of those. Yeah.
I'm as I'm looking at those, they are, oh my gosh, they're almost entirely different in terms of how you handle them. Right. Totally. I think when I've watched how these get handled, I think there's a disagreement between the 2 parties of which phase they're necessarily choosing. And then if they have chosen the same phase, what I've also noticed is one person, while they both feel like they've chosen the redemption phase, one person has a different idea of what that phase needs compared to the other person. And that can be a very problematic, right? Because, there's they don't feel like they're working towards the thing that they're working towards. I can totally resonate with that. I had a very different vision of what redemption looks like compared to her. And I think it caused a lot of harm. We'll get back to that. And then phase 4.
Phase 4 is where all women kind of come back together. So phase 3 is realign. Phase 4 is what I called rebuild. And this is really an organic shift that happens. And this is usually once the crisis of the relationship has calmed, she knows where it's headed. And then there's this shift that happens where women will come into my office and they're like, you know what? It's time. I really need to focus on me. It's time to focus on me. And this is where she kind of gets the lay of the land and says, all right, how do I rebuild? Like, what do I want the rest of my life to look like now? And to start moving towards that. So I love this. All women come back into this phase 4, no matter what the outcome of their relationship is. And I love this. I love that phase to help women get a glimpse of what life can be like again.
Yeah, it's so cool. And it's a nice, it's a great, I think the hallmark of this phase for us was, it was this shift of like, you know what? Hey, if you're going to act out again, I trust my gut that I'll know, and I'll find out and then I'll leave. It was like, it's more of this like, hey, I just hope you and I are on the same page here, but at the same time, I'm tired of worrying about you. I want my life back. And it's a cool level of ownership, but I like it because I think it sets the marriage starts to really, at least for me, it was a cool place where like, I was really proud of her, and I felt almost more compelled to be prouder of myself, right, in that phase. I love that fourth one. So I would love to kind of go back, if you're okay with it. I'd love to go to each phase and kind of explain to, the bulk of my audience are men. I think 20% are their partners, but I'd still say 80% of the audience are men who are, in the first 6 months of this, year of this, 2 years of this. So if we could go through each phase just a little bit. So this reveal safety phase, what do men need to understand about this that you feel like, if they read your book, they would almost have a different appreciation for than when they're on the reveal phase on their side of things? So I think the two worlds are in that phase probably more different than almost any other phase, right?
Yeah. Well, for guys, I would say you've got to give her the truth. And it is actually the most loving thing you can do to give her the truth. And I know it's scary and terrifying and all of that. But if your marriage has any chance, or your relationship has any chance of really healing and moving forward, you've got to come fully clean.
And when you write in this book, how, because I want guys to kind of understand, like, when the helpers are helping, it is beneficial to understand, like, what are the helpers telling her? Because again, it's very important that we know what that is. Because I think, if she's getting prepared for something because she wants to save the marriage. I think guys forget, like, the fact that she didn't leave. You guys understand? Like, I know once you enter when you enter the betrayal trauma space, you have this delusional thought of like, oh, all the partners stay. Guys, that is wildly not true. I would say the people who make it into Tammy's office, you guys are the exception in the small percentage. I think most people see this and they just leave. They put an end to it. So the fact that these ladies are here and wanting to do this, you're the exception. You're lucky. There's some true love going on here where, you guys are getting grace that I would say the vast majority of the population does not get. So that all being said, when she goes to seek help for this and give you a chance, I personally think we need to honor that maybe more than we do. So they come in, let's say they're meeting with you, or maybe they're reading this book, Tammy. If you're going to tell my audience, the men of my audience, like that message that they're getting in terms of like the value of him coming clean, like what are you telling them that needs to happen and the benefit of that and what that sets the relationship up for in the future, this kind of radical transparency so that my guys can adhere to that? Because I don't think sometimes we're really honoring this phase. It's still, how little can I get away with, right? How little can I say to incriminate myself past the poly so that we can kind of move on? In your book, what are you saying, and how can guys do their part to give
the minimum is going to destroy your marriage. Like, this is really, it's really, this is an all or nothing. You have got to come fully clean. And because she will feel it in her body, and chances are you won't pass a polygraph. And every time there's a drip disclosure, every time you say that's it and then it wasn't, or every time you fail a polygraph, that can damage the relationship almost even more than the initial one.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, like, there, for the true healing and for your sake, for your true healing, there really has to be a full break there of like letting your guard down and opening it up and going, okay, this is reality, because you'll never be free from shame until you get it all out. And so for your own healing, it is really important, because shame is the worst feeling to live with. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Like, I wouldn't wish that. And to be able to come clean, the vast majority of men who do a full disclosure that I talk to feel relief afterwards.
I'll speak to that. To me, sure, I know I mean, I don't agree that it's for her. I think that she benefits from hearing it. But I mean, I think if we really were to measure like who gets the most out of it, I would say I would encourage all guys to be insanely honest, because I think from a benefit standpoint, I think 80% of the benefit actually was for me. I think she needed to hear it. She deserved to hear it all. I know my wife would not have been able to go forward without full disclosure with polygraph. I mean, my wife, she needed it. There was no way around that. There's no disclosure without polygraph. There's no censored disclosure. I mean, she needed the full dang thing in a pretty darn good, a great amount of detail minus harmful details. So yeah, so again, she benefited, but I'll say right now to all the guys listening, I got a ton out of it, and I don't. It was, out of the whole process, was actually probably the most beneficial thing to get it out there, because it was like, all right, cool. Well, there's literally nothing she doesn't know, and I think guys minimize the feeling of that. It was. I mean, Tammy, it was such a great feeling to know. Okay, truly, no secrets. I do. I think guys need to really let that in. That is man, it's just such a great feeling, to really let her know where you're at. Hey, I have been watching porn 3 times a week since the day we met for 20 years, 30 years. Like, I have done that. And there's a freedom of like, I'm not holding back any little bit of our life there. So I want to drop an anchor on that and say, stop thinking about this as a her thing. It's definitely a you thing as well. And then phase 2, Rumble. Oh gosh. So when you're talking about, I mean, I think all the guys are very familiar with their rumbling. So when you're speaking to these ladies about their rumbling, I would say this is a phase that, Tammy, we really need your help with, because this is the phase where there is some question as to, okay, I'm starting to appreciate what betrayal trauma is and what compulsive sexual behavior is. There is this question, though, of, do I want to stay? do I want to do this? And I don't think any couple is exempt from that. I think some question it more than others, but I do think both people, it's healthy to kind of wonder, do I want to stay? And then B, do I trust them to do their part? So what are you saying to the ladies in this rumble phase, so that the guys can, again, do everything that they can to, make it as, easy for them as possible? Because I would say guys can really screw up phase 2 if they're not careful.
Well, I think from the guy's perspective, they have to be fully in. Yeah. And this is where sobriety is not the finish line. Sobriety is a starting line. And so for them to get to a place of sobriety, but then it's the deeper work of recovery. It's the character change. It's understanding why, not just, you weren't having sex with me after our son was born, but no, like, why? Like, trace this back to childhood. What are those wounds that are not being filled? So, and that's not on your partner. That's on you to go back and fill those, right? So for him, he has to break and he has to dig in deep. He has to understand his triggers. He has to have plans in place. He needs good men in his life, and not men who are going to pat him on the back and say, yeah, I did porn this week too, or wives are so mean for yelling at us. That will destroy the marriage, right? And so for the guys, they have to be all in this process of really becoming a new man. Because from a wife's perspective, or a betrayed partner's perspective, Most of the time, they did not know what their husband was doing when they got married. And if they did, they never would have married them.
Mm-hmm.
But they love them and see this version of them. And so this phase 2 is the chance you have to dig deep, to clean all that out, and to become the person who your wife always thought that you were. Because most women do not want to get divorced. They just want their guys to do the work. They just want him to become safe. They just want him to have integrity. But they've got to do the work. And for her side, again, she's got to keep the bar high. And she has got to focus on herself. She cannot be your cheerleader. She cannot be your therapist. She cannot be any of that. If she does, she gets out of her shoes and she loses herself in the process. Because here's the deal that I see is that, especially in phase 1, phase 2, there's this unspoken kind of back and forth thing that happens, and it's whose emotions get center stage. Is it his? Because for his regret and his shame, and usually there's anger or whatever the case may be, is the focus on his emotions, or is the focus on her and her pain and her trauma? And let me tell you what I see time and time again. If the focus goes to him, all healing stops.
Yeah, I can see that.
Her healing stops, and his healing actually stops too. Your healing stops if your wife is caretaking you and you're asking her to do that. Because part of your healing is to focus on her, is to face those negative emotions, is to learn how to deal when she's angry, is to provide space and empathy and all that. That is crucial to your healing. And for her, she has got to stay focused on herself, because her reality, her life, her heart was shattered. It is the equivalent of being in a massive car accident with broken bones and bleeding out and concussion. And she needs to go to the ICU. But a lot of times what happens is we lose sight of that. And the guys are like, ooh, but this is really uncomfortable and this doesn't feel good. And I mean no respect by this, but a lot of times it is like come help me and make me feel better, and don't make me feel anything that feels uncomfortable. And it's like, no, we have to get back to the fact that she's in the ICU because of what you have done.
Yeah, the way I say it too is the way to get there. And guys, hear this seriously. You get there through, and I Tammy, I mean, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I think a lot of guys butcher this because they drag their feet too much when it comes to getting a really strong tribe of men around them, because again, it's hard. Notice Tammy did not say, don't feel your feelings. Tammy did not say, become a punching bag and let her take the show and let her do it. Tammy didn't say that. Tammy said, in this phase, it really is beneficial for both parties to keep the spotlight on the betrayed partner during this time, just because I'd agree with you, Tammy. I think they really need it and deserve it. It's the position they are in. I don't think if they have the spotlight, I agree with you. I think it's, I don't know. I would worry about the relationship at that time. And here's why I say that is, guys, it's pretty easy for us to get a pretty dang workable spotlight. It's really, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't say it's easy. I would say if you're trying to get into good recovery, you can get a spotlight on you and then keep the relational one on her. I think for them, Tammy, oh my gosh, it's so hard for them to get one on their own if we're not putting the relational one on her. It's just the betrayed partners. It's a scarier road, sadder road, unfair. There's injustice. I don't know, that space is just such a hard space. Whereas for the guys, it's like, I really feel like if you're getting into good recovery, I can find this tribe. I can get men who understand. I can get, I think for us, it's easier to get a secondary spotlight for us and then put the relational one on them. In my opinion, I think for them, it's just a different container. They're pissed this happened. They shouldn't have to do 10 times the recovery work that we have to do. It's unfair. They never wanted this. You did this for decades upon decades. Now we have kids. We have our retirements. I mean, it's just I think the container for them is just like, ugh, this is such BS. Like, gosh dang it. Why'd you have to ruin something so good? And so I just want the guys to understand, like, we knew this was going on the whole time. It's a lot easier for us to get into recovery. And so I think I just wanted to center what Tammy said. In no way are we saying screw you, it's all about her. I'm saying it's a lot. Again, I don't want to use the word easy because I don't think it's easy. I think there are a lot of avenues for us to get into a place where we can have a spotlight with our boys and our therapists and our recovery team. Whereas for her, I think it's just like, to me, any light that we can shine on her, I would highly recommend doing that, because it's just, she needs it. I mean, it is just, she needs all the light that we can give. She needs it. I guess that's my best way of just kind of encapsulating it. So, but I do want to just say one more time, don't ignore your feelings. Because I would say for guys, this is incredibly traumatizing. It's wildly embarrassing, shocking, lonely. You're going through your own stuff too. I would just say, Tammy's not saying ignore it. Tammy's saying, hey, there's avenues for this here. But again, in the relationship, I agree with you. I think when I tried to fight back the spotlight, Tammy, things went very poorly, because I gave it to her for like 9 months, and then I kind of, I don't know, got jealous and wanted it to be a little bit on me. And I really did. Things sputtered during that phase. I tried to take it back a little too early. Now, I would say, just last thing, you guys can kind of share it eventually too. So that there is this kind of cool phase where it isn't just her. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of phases where I got it on me a lot more, and she put it on me. But I love that analogy. I haven't quite worded it, heard somebody word it like that. So I appreciate that.
Well, and can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
because
please.
I totally agree. You have to focus on your emotions. That is the route to healing. You have to get in touch with yourself and your emotions and know what's going on and learn how to handle them. So absolutely. So I'm glad you caught that. But it's not her. It's not with her.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Right. And what you're saying, get a tribe of guys, get a therapist, and dig in deep and absolutely feel them, because they are important. You are important. But within the dynamic of this, she is the one that is hurt, and you're the one that hurt her.
Yeah.
So,
and I love how you called it spotlight rather than like a one-up thing. Because I love spotlight. I think that's the point is, again, it's not this crazy, we're not asking for this unhealthy dynamic. That's not what Tammy's saying. I like the word spotlight, Tammy. I like that. It's like, let's shine that light on her for sure. I really like that analogy. I think that's, out of all the ones I've heard, it's probably my favorite one, right? I like that.
Well, and what I hear you kind of alluding to a lot is the power dynamics.
Yep.
And so what I want to, for those listening, what I would want to offer, a different way of looking at it, is while you were acting out, power is the ability to influence or the ability to resist influence. So when you were acting out and she didn't know, you had all the power, and she had no idea. She thought it was equal. The reality is you had all the power. Or if she would catch you at times and she would say, don't ever do that again and whatnot, and you say, okay, but you still do it, you still have all the power. So when things blow up, a lot of men come into the recovery period feeling like they started on equal ground, and now feeling, boy, she's stepping into her power and she's above me. That's not what's happening. It's that you started way above her. You had all the power. And now to equalize that, for the relationship to be healthy, she has to step into it. And it will probably even be a little bit more for a while in this phase, but not forever, right? But that's really important, that you understand that, one, she doesn't like having the power most of the time. But two, it was never equal playing field. You always had the power. And if you want a healthy relationship, she has to be able to step up, and you have to be able to come down.
Yeah, and Tammy, I like that you brought that up, because I do often wonder, especially with my guys in my population, guys, I mean this in the nicest way, but one thing I definitely have come to realize was and I'm not going to project this onto other men, but I certainly unknowingly took advantage of her codependence in my, kind of business entrepreneurial agenda. Was not my intent. And one would argue it actually kind of worked out a little harmoniously, right? She, supported me on a lot of these ventures. And, but I think you brought something up that I think I'd ask all the guys to sit with is the power dynamic really uneven? How uneven is it really? Or are you feeling somebody who is now asking for the same things that you were asking the whole time. And you're like, whoa. Hey, you were supposed to like sit back here and I got to do whatever. And so I think you bring up a good point, Tammy. I do sometimes wonder if we feel as if the power dynamic is incredibly lopsided, when I think, to your point, I think a lot of times they just stepped into it and we're not used to it feeling equal. Now, again, I'm not projecting on that. For some guys, it might actually be lopsided. So I'm not saying that's always the case, but be open to the idea that it may not be as lopsided as you think. My wife, I bring that up, Tammy. My wife said that. She was like, I don't think it's that way. She's like, I think you're just not used to me sticking, because it was some small stuff, Tammy. It was, no, I don't want that tonight. I would like to eat this. And it's like, whoa. Hey, like, you never used to say that. Or, hey, do you want to go here? No, I think you should just go alone. I'm like, what do you mean go? So like, I love that you brought that up as a little tangent, because I often wonder, is it really as lopsided as we think? Or are you just kind of used to like getting your way all the time? And then now that she's like being a human with needs and expressing them, that you're like, oh, wow, she's totally changed. It's like, I don't know. It sure kind of looks like healthy behavior to me. And it always shut me up, because it's like, my next response would be, can you be more codependent again? Right. And it's like, I can't say that. Right. So I love that.
It was a good choice not to say that.
Yeah. Right.
But for her healing, just so you know, guys, she has to step into her power. She has to find her voice. And that is actually a positive sign of her healing. And as we get into phase 3, if everybody is doing good, like, it does level out. Like, it's not always going to be like this. Well,
and Tammy, you were one of the 3, or not one of 4 authors who made it into my book. I actually quoted you on page. I can't remember what page it was. I was going to look it up before, but Tammy does a great job of really highlighting how a lot of this stuff is not bad. The quote that I pulled from you, Tammy, was, I can't remember where I got it, but basically, if they're mad, it's a good thing. You want to like that is that, guys always see like, oh, we're on the verge of divorce. No, I mean, if she is doing that, I mean, I had a client who was in my group and he was showing me all these hours and hours and hours of investigation that his partner was doing. And he was like, wow, she's crazy. She's going to leave me. I'm like, brother, she just spent 18 hours snooping. That is somebody who's trying to find a reason to stay. That is not that. If she was out, she'd be spending 18 hours hiring lawyers and looking for short-term rentals. I mean, she would not be spending this on spying on you to assess her safety. So I love that you do that, Tammy. You do such a great job of like, hey, be careful. Like, let's see this accurately. It's easy to spin this in a delusional way and actually harm the marriage, right? I think a lot of the time, what these ladies are doing, and Tammy reminds this. I wanted to mention this too before we get on to number 3. Tammy offers this really neat. I've attended ever since my wife and I were after Discovery. I have attended the Betrayal Healing Conference. I wanted to speak to that real quick before we go to number 3. Tammy, we'll have a link down below so that you guys can sign up. But do you want to just speak to for couples who have not done that yet? Do you want to speak about like how it works and the mission of it?
Yeah. So the idea of the healing conference is really to gather people who are hurting, and it's specifically for women, but there's also a couple that are specifically for those who did the betraying as well for these interviews. So there's usually about 30 different speakers that I really handpick, because my goal is to find safety, to bring in safe speakers, to bring in people who are hurting, and to have this. It's 5 days long. So this year it's going to be January 26th through the 30th. And so it's free to register for it. And really what you're going to get is you're going to get some really good, solid, healthy guidance from some of the experts in the field.
What my wife and I did was we purchased I don't know if you're still offering that this year, but we purchased the VIP ticket. And the reason we did that was we had access to the conference. And so what we did was, instead of, because everybody listening to this can probably resonate, oh my gosh, I swear every dang TV show we watched, there was an affair, there was a sex worker, there was infidelity of some kind, and it was just like, oh my gosh, we can't even turn on the dang television. So, but what we did was we would watch, every night, instead of watching television, we would watch these different segments from the conference. So that was a really cool thing. So just a little suggestion to the people who are in the beginning phases of this and are struggling to find what to watch in the evenings. This was a fun thing, and kind of birthed some conversations that I think my wife and I wouldn't have had if we didn't have that. So thank you for putting that on. It's so cool that it's free. And then for those of you who want to have access to it, she has options for that as well. So Tammy, back to phase 3 here. So now this is the 3 options: redemption, divorce, and then option 3, roommate. Is that what you called it? I do, that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are accidental roommates. I'd love to speak about that, because I do think phase 3, what I've seen is, it's interesting to see these 3. I think a lot of people accidentally do roommate, Tammy, because they, I think people end up doing their own recovery, because they are like, screw this, every time we do stuff together, it doesn't work. And so the guy gets in super great recovery on his own, and then she gets in super great recovery on her own. And then there's just kind of this meh thing in the beginning. It's like, we haven't learned how to communicate. So we're kind of avoiding each other because we don't want to get divorced. And when we do try to heal, it doesn't go well. So I think, just to kind of bring that up, I think for people, I don't know how many people intend to become roommates. I think they accidentally become roommates. But so walk us through the 3. So if a guy's kind of looking at this, if we're in the redemption phase, what's that look like on her then? What's that look like on his end?
Yeah, the redemption path is really where it becomes obvious, okay, he's done good work and he is safe enough. And we're going to start leaning back in, and we're going to start healing the relationship, really. And guys, for women, this is terrifying. I call it the deer in the headlights moments, because there's this moment where women will come into my office and their eyes are huge and they're like, I think I need to start leaning back in. And it is terrifying. And you need to understand that, because all this time up until now, she has been protecting. She has been very appropriately putting up boundaries and setting up distance so you don't hurt her heart again. And now she's seen enough of you that she's like, okay, maybe he's safe. Maybe I can lean back in. Yeah. But she has to do a 180 and open her heart back that was absolutely shattered. So for you, what I would say is, have a lot of grace and a lot of patience and a lot of empathy for your wife. If she is choosing to open her heart back to you after you shattered it, oh, that is such a big deal, right? So what I tell women in this phase is, you got to go slow. You got to go slow, because there's going to be a little bit put a toe in, see how he does, see if he's still safe. And if he's not, you pull back and you get safe. But if he is, then you can lean in further. And one thing I think it's important to know that's really confusing for couples in this phase 2, or not this phase, but this path of phase 3, is that there will be times where there will be closeness. And then after this beautiful closeness, there's this spring that shoots you out of okay, that was a lot. And now I'm feeling really vulnerable. And so it can feel very confusing for both sides to be okay, we were just close, and now I feel like I just get away from me. That's totally normal. And it's just, she is reintegrating, and she's pushing past some of that safety stuff. And it's very, very tender. So this has to go slow. This is not okay, we're moving on. Great. Let's renew our vows and off we go. I don't recommend renewing vows, by the way. That's a side note. I see men blow up life 6 months after renewing vows.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's
can you imagine?
Pattern.
Yeah.
That's a total sidetrack, though.
And for my guys, a lot of my guys, rebellion, defiance, that is a huge thing for them. And so making, sometimes these grand gestures can actually have the wrong effect if a lot of your parts enjoy being bad, which I think, or keeping a secret. I think a lot of us don't recognize how much some of that has driven the compulsivity. And so, yeah, to your point, to have this grand gesture, it might not be a great thing. The one thing that I want to say on that redemption piece is, guys, don't do what and this, I think this goes for every couple. Tammy, you can probably I bet you can totally resonate with this. I had this great comment from one of our couples therapists when we were in about, I don't know, year one and a half. He said to us, and I think this speaks to the redemption phase so well, stop using today and yesterday as the data to project where you guys are and where you guys are going to be. I think that was some great advice, because I think, like you said, in this phase, there's a day where she's like, oh my God, what am I thinking? I shouldn't. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I almost trusted him today. Like, what was I thinking? Right. So it's like the guy can see that and then jump to a conclusion. Oh, she'll never trust me again. And I think one of the best advice I got for this redemption phase was every day at a time. It's and don't let a 3-day setback period think that you guys are slipping back. Cause I do think we sabotage by saying, you know what, screw it. I thought we were going here, and she clearly doesn't want to get over there. It's just, I think we draw so many conclusions by the bad days or even the good days in this phase. And I think we got to be careful doing that, because the redemption phase is full of, shoot, Tammy, I would even say we had some of our lowest of lows in this phase, almost lower than, days where we are like, oh my gosh, I think we're going to get divorced. It really was. And then here we go, 2 weeks later, we're closer than ever. So you guys, it's they call it a roller coaster. I had a guy the other day say, ain't no roller coaster, it's a yo-yo. It is straight up and straight down. There's no ramp. It's, I love you. And then 6 hours later, it's, you're a monster. I can't, it's just like, oh my gosh, make up your mind. But I just wanted to drop that in there. That was one of the best pieces of advice we got was, guys, be so careful drawing conclusions about today or yesterday. Like, why not be open to the idea that 3 days from now could be the highest of highs you guys have ever had? And I think anybody in betrayal, like, come on, that's a total possibility. I want to touch on, I don't want to talk too much about it, but just because the people listening to this may or may not be in this phase, but I do want to touch on divorce, because I think there is a method to splitting up in a healthy way. Can you just kind of touch on how you kind of address this in the book?
So really for divorce, I do a lot of validation for her because it's grieving and it's another trauma. But what I would say that I think is probably most applicable for your audience is that almost none of the women I've worked with actually wanted to get divorced. Most women don't want to get divorced. They just want you to do the work. So for your guys listening, do your work, and hopefully you won't ever have to go down this path and this route.
Yeah, let me ask this. Let me ask this though, because I would say there is this phase, and I'm sure you've seen it. I don't know, right around 2-year mark. There's a lot of the guys that are like, screw this, I'm done. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. What would you say to the men who have kind of hit that phase where they're like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I now want the divorce. For 2 years, they were like, don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me. Then they get into this phase where it's like, you know what, screw it. I think I'd be better off maybe just starting over with someone else, or maybe never getting remarried. What would you say to the guys in that phase? Because I also, every time I've noticed that they're in that phase, Tammy, it doesn't seem like a healthy way of thinking, like 99% of the time. It seems very egoic to me. What would you say about how to handle that phase if you're a guy who's like flirting with the idea of quitting?
So then I would say, if you're at that phase at 2 years, I don't think you've done your work.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Can you say one more thing? Why?
Because it doesn't take that long to get sober and to get healthy and to get safe. And if you are safe and healthy and empathetic, and you have broken and you're not holding back some of that resentment and anger towards your wife, then at 2 years, you probably won't be in that phase.
Yeah,
so if you're there, and if you're like, I'm just done with this, then I would say, with all respect, you need to look inside and you need to figure out
Yeah.
where that fight inside of you still is. And you need to
Yeah.
do deeper work.
It's true, Tammy. I think you said it. What I noticed in that phase, because I'll be full transparency, I was that guy. I was like, you know what, I can't. I'm not interested in this anymore. And I will tell you right now, Tammy, it was my resentments, even some splash of some contempt. I mean, for those of you who've looked into some of the Gottman stuff, I mean, it was that. It was like to a T, but I was making it about her, and the truth was and so that's what I would say to all the guys is, hey, just make sure you clean up some of that stuff. I wouldn't have the resentment and contempt drive the divorce if it truly isn't working and there's other reasons why. Okay. But at the same time, I mean, just make sure, I agree with you. Make sure it's not resentment and contempt, because at the same time, I think a lot of things that were said and how the relationship is kind of functioning, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of truth to use that data as leverage to leave her. I would be very careful. I would be very careful using her trauma against the relationship to make a judgment. That's one thing I've had to remind myself is this her, or is this the byproduct of kind of the situation that I put her in? And do I want to leave because of the byproduct that I caused? And again, I'm not telling any couple what to do, but I would ask guys to do your work and make sure that you really want to resent her for the things that you resent her for, that you really can look at your therapist and say, I resent her for this, and I don't want to get over it. Cool. All right. That's fine. What I found, Tammy, is 10 out of 10 things that I resented her for, I did not feel good resenting her for those things. It was just unfair. To have that destroy the marriage just doesn't sit right with me, right? So anyways, I thought that was a beautiful thing to bring up. And then roommate phase. Ew, this is so funny. I haven't really heard this spoken about, but it's so freaking true. I think there's more roommates out there than probably any of those other freaking phases. Seriously, almost every guy I meet is in the roommate phase. So speak to how you address that. I mean, what a vague and murky phase that's almost so unique to the coupleship. How do you write that in a book and help people who are in such a wide variety of situations?
Well, what I say for the roommate phase is this happens when he's not fully doing his work and she doesn't want to leave for whatever reason. Usually it's finances or his kids. Usually she doesn't. Usually she's kind of trapped. But what I use a hand motion for this, and it's almost like there's just, this probably won't come off well for a podcast, but it's just, there's this unspoken kind of rut that they find themselves in. And this is actually, I worry about these women more than anyone else, even when life initially breaks up and that initial absolute shattering of your heart, because this is where women's lights go out. This is where they start to die inside. And that to me is the most tragic thing that could possibly happen in this.
Can I add too that I see men die in this phase too? I see all the life get sucked out of both parties in this. And that is scary because I mean, if you're lifeless, what's going to happen? Right. I mean, I think I see it in men too. I see them just become hollow and shells of themselves. And it's just like, I don't know. It's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch. I don't know if a marriage, I mean, can you really survive if you're lifeless?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a pretty miserable place to be. But when you're coming out of betrayal, this is really on him.
Yeah, true.
The healing of the relationship is on him. And the way to prevent this is to do good work, is to really do that deep character work, because you will not end up in this place if he does the deep character work. So this is preventable, and you can get out of it. But once you're in it, it takes a lot of momentum to get out.
I think you did such a great job bringing that up, because I think, and here's where I agree with you, that it is on the guys, is again, they're just looking for a freaking reason. And so to me, yeah, if the reasons are few, I do agree with you. It's like, I think their body starts to wonder, like, why am I staying? Why am I hoping for something? So I think I agree with you. I think it's like, give her a freaking reason. And to me, it's really not that I've never found it that hard to give them a reason, because guys, don't you want all this stuff for your own life? And I think that's really what she's starting to wonder in this roommate phase, is like, is this really just recovery to you, or do you really, do you want this for yourself? I saw her kind of taking a different approach of like, I'm just going to watch from afar and like assess like how important is this to you, right? Are you just doing this because I'm telling you to do it? Or are you doing this because whether we stay together or not, you want this for your life? And I saw her measuring me on a different standard. And of course, my listeners are used to this because I've done this before. You want to know number 4? You got to buy the book. What do you do with the rest of your life? Exactly. I did this with my own book. My last chapters are our legacy. What are you going to leave? You're going to be the guy who lied to your life repetitively and broke marriage after marriage and were locked in your office masturbating and all this. Like, is that your legacy? You're going to be that guy, like the guy who kind of took this seriously, but then at the same time never did. Like, come on, like that's really going to be your legacy. So anyways, little teaser for the end of my book. But I think those final chapters are always the fun ones, because it's like, it is that question of, what do I have to look for? And I encourage everybody to spend actually a lot of time there. I think we underestimate the need for hope in this situation. And I do. I think those last chapters, I would encourage every woman or guy, when you buy Tammy's book, maybe reread that last little bit, that phase 4 a couple times, really anchor in what you're working towards. It can be really easy to get caught in the phase you're in, but there's steps to this, and we do, you put in the work, you do get out. You really do. But I'm not going to say it's easy. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. There's nothing I've done in my life that was as challenging as this. The man it forced me to become so I could do it was the hardest part. It wasn't even the recovery work. It was me trying to get to a mature enough point where I could even do this in the first place. And God bless my wife for adding double time for all of my immaturity, narcissism, grandiosity. Like, there's so much crap I had to get out of my life to show up for her. And, God bless her for putting up with it. And of course, Tammy, how do we get this book? What's it called? Where is it going to be? And also one more mention of the conference, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can get the book on Amazon. It's called Broken to Brave, Your Courageous Act of Healing After Intimate Betrayal. And yeah, I would love to have you guys join us for the conference. And guys, if you take initiative on this and like bring it to your wife, that's going to go a long ways.
Yes, 100%.
So the book is on Amazon. You'll have a link, so you'll get the link to everybody. And I do want to give hope. Mm-hmm. I do want to give hope. Like, guys, it is possible to make it through this. It is possible for the relationship to heal. I made it through with my husband, and our marriage is by far better than it was before. And I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it's true. And he is a better person than he has ever been. So I just want to give, in the midst of this, it feels so dark and it feels so impossible. And it feels like she'll never stop being angry and will never heal. But let me tell you, you can. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy.